Hi everybody! The esports industry has been accelerating at a pace that has never been seen before. In 2017 itself, according to SuperData, gaming video has more audience than HBO, Netflix, ESPN and Hulu combined. And all thanks to YouTube gaming and Twitch, according to KPMG, gaming became the biggest earning media sector in 2020 with a revenue of $180 billion. And what blew my mind is that this is more than the revenue generated by movies and sports combined, and that too during the pre-COVID times in 2019. This clearly states that the esports industry is soon going to be bigger than Olympics, bigger than IPL, and perhaps way bigger than the most prestigious sports leagues in the world. So in the first episode of the Gaming Business series, let's try to understand how does the esports industry work, what are the paradigm shifts happening in the business model of these esports giants, and most importantly, as students and investors into the esports business, what are the factors that you need to keep an eye on to understand the esports industry better? This video is brought to you by Udemy. People, just like the evolution of esports and gaming, everything is changing at a fast pace, and the only way to keep up with it is by continuously learning and upskilling. You could do exactly that using our partners for today's episode, and that is Udemy. Udemy has something for everyone with its 1.5 lakh course library, which offers courses from tech, marketing, animation, crypto and many more fields. Recently, I took up a course on Excel, and now I use Excel for almost everything. I save a ton of my time after the course because of all the shortcuts and tips that I learned in the course. Now, it has helped me significantly increase my productivity. Some of the other interesting courses include Digital Marketing by Rob Percival and Animation course by Lucas Ridley. And a great thing about Udemy is its affordability. Some of its courses will cost you less than your regular movie outing. So if you want to keep learning and upskilling yourself in order to catch up with the industry trends, check out the special link in the description and you can take advantage of the New Year sales on Udemy. The first thing you need to understand is the difference between video gaming and esports. And this is something that most people get confused about. While video gaming simply includes anyone and everyone who plays games using an electronic gadget, esports is a special category of gaming wherein, just like NBA, La Liga and IPL, the players involved in the game compete against each other and are focused on using their skills to win the championship. It is as simple as the difference between playing hide and seek and playing cricket in IPL. And just like IPL, the esports industry has several stakeholders who invest their resources to get good returns in terms of money, visibility and entertainment. In total, there are 11 major stakeholder groups in the esports industry that exist within its ecosystem. And let's try to understand who they are using the simple analogy of conventional sports. The first set of stakeholders who actually bring the game to life are publishers and developers. They are either the same organization taking on both roles, or they share a principal-agent relationship wherein the developers work for the publisher. In case of cricket, Brits were the inventors, and obviously there is no analogy for a publisher. But in esports, we've got companies like Epic Games which developed and published the iconic Fortnite. Whereas PUBG was developed by the PUBG Corporation, but it has multiple publishers all across the world like Hot Cool Games and Tencent Games. Then, below these two, we have the third stakeholder, which are the leagues. And in case of cricket, it's nothing but IPL. And just like the Indian Premier League, the esport leagues share a symbiotic relationship with the publishers, wherein the publisher gives these league organizers an asset to do business with, and at the same time, these leagues, they give the games the popularity, which eventually gives them more fans, more players, eventually generating more revenue. In case of conventional sports, Wimbledon uses tennis, the sport, as an asset, and then it attracts players like Federer and Nadal, hence increasing the popularity of the game of tennis. NBA does this for basketball, La Liga does this for football, and IPL does this for cricket. In case of esports, we've got leagues like the World Esports League, which is a global tournament series organized by the International Esports Federation. And League of Legends World Championship was one of the most popular esports event in 2021 with a peak viewership of over 3.5 million. This is how leagues and publishers share a symbiotic relationship by which they benefit each other in terms of viewership and revenue. And then we have the fourth type of stakeholders, who are the players. These are the ones who play these esports eventually to win prize money, to gain profile and to generate sponsor interest. And just like physical sports, esports has two types of players. Small players who get an identity by playing the esport, and established players who give identity to the esport. A simple example of the same is Virat Kohli and Ruturaj Gaikwad. If players like Virat Kohli play the Indian Premier League, the league itself largely benefits both in terms of visibility and revenue. And at the same time, players like Ruturaj Gaikwad at this point get their identity and visibility due to the Indian Premier League. In case of gaming, we have gamers like Richard Tyler or Ninja, who is so popular that when he plays the game in Twitch, the game itself shoots to fame. And just like Ruturaj Gaikwad, we have small players in the esports market who are now gaining identity due to the esports that they play. If this is very clear to you, let's move on to the most influential stakeholders in the group, who are the streaming platforms and broadcasters of esports. And the reason why they are so powerful is because they help the leagues and players get directly in contact with the lifeblood of esports, who are the fans. And the members of this stakeholder group includes Twitch, YouTube gaming, etc. And for broadcasters, we've got ESPN. In case of IPL, you must have guessed it already. Star Sports and Setmax are the broadcasters, and now Hotstar is the streaming service. In case of esports, due to almost zero entry barrier, the streaming platforms have become so powerful that the entire industry has been accelerated merely due to the power of influencers. And this has turned even normal video games into esports sensations. And finally, we have the most important stakeholders of the esports industry, and those are the fans who play the games and watch esports for entertainment. These are the primary stakeholders in the esports industry. Now this is where the second phase comes in. As the industry evolves and grows, there are 4 more secondary players who come in. Initially, fans are just viewers, but as the number of fans and the attachment of these fans with the game increases, the esports industry attracts 2 more stakeholders, and they are the sponsors and complementary businesses like merchandise makers. For example, when Manchester United started playing, it was just another club. But as soon as iconic stories got associated with it, like the Busby Boy story or the Alex Ferguson story, the fan base became so strong and so loyal that in 2019 itself, Manchester United made £102 million just by selling merchandises. Similarly, Nike was not a powerful player in the market until Michael Jordan came in. And today, Jordan shoes are a sensation even decades after his retirement. And just like that, today some esports have reached a level wherein fans not only watch esports content but also engage with ads, which gives an insane return on investment to the sponsors. Therefore, more fans equals more visibility, which means more sponsors, eventually more money for the leagues, publishers, streaming service and developers. This is how the gaming industry operates. But then the question over here is, where do tech giants like Facebook, Amazon and Google come in? Well, this is where the third phase of esports come in, wherein the entire dynamics of the gaming industry is undergoing a paradigm shift. And just like any other paradigm shift, companies that adopt to the new age models will go on to become the next big giants in the industry. So the question is, what is this paradigm shift all about? The answer to this question lies in the fundamental statement that we derived, which says more fans equals more visibility, which means more sponsors, eventually more money for the leagues, publishers, streaming services and developers. And if you need more fans, you need 2 things. Number 1 is the accessibility to esport, and number 2 is the visibility for the esport. Visibility is obviously the streamers who play these games and entertain and engage the viewers. Here's where we've got legends like Richard Blevins or Ninja, Raul Alvarez and Turner Tenney. These are the mega influencers who stream games in front of millions of viewers. Eventually, these viewers go on to become players and fans. But accessibility is something very special, because this is where the disruption is happening. And the catch over here is that accessibility, in spite of being the most important attribute of gaming and the esports industry, it is by default being limited by the existing business models. The question is, how is that even possible and what does it exactly mean? To tell you about it, if you look at the gaming giants like PlayStation and Xbox, which have popular games like Call of Duty and FIFA, until now these companies have been making money primarily by selling game CDs and recently through the cloud. And after you buy these games, you've got subscriptions, in-app purchases, etc. But the biggest problem over here is that in order to play these games, the customer has to spend 30,000 rupees just to get the console and then spend another 3,000 to 5,000 rupees to get the game, and then only she can access the game. So if you see, the number of people who are interacting with the game is decreasing by a large extent merely because of the entry barrier, which is about affordability. And just like physical sports, Unless you play the game, you will not be able to appreciate the skills of the players at the professional level. As a result, you will never become a viewer of that sport. For example, if you have never played FIFA, you will never be able to appreciate the fact that your younger sister can hit a solo goal, that too at legendary level difficulty. Or if you have not played Counter-Strike, you will never be able to understand how difficult it is to hit 10 headshots in a row. Therefore, more entry barrier means less players, which means less viewers, eventually less viewership, meaning less engagement and less money to the stakeholders of the industry. This is the reason why new business models and new processing models are on the rise in the esports industry. The business model is nothing but the freemium model, and the processing model is what we know today as cloud gaming. We'll talk about cloud gaming later because for now it will be too much for you to digest. But freemium model is something that you're already familiar with. A classic example of the same is none other than PUBG. People, when we were children, we all have known Call of Duty as the most iconic competitive game of our generation, right? And it has dominated the space for 10 long years. But as of 2019, while Call of Duty generated a revenue of $1.1 billion, surprisingly, in the same year, PUBG, in spite of entering the market in just 2017-18, generated a revenue of $1.51 billion. And the obvious reason why this happened is because while people needed a PC or a console like PlayStation and then a CD to play Call of Duty, PUBG eliminated the entry barrier by giving it out for free, and most importantly, it increased the accessibility by a large extent through mobile compatibility. And instead of making money by charging for CDs, they made money just through in-app purchases and advertising. And today, it is standing toe-to-toe with a legend like Call of Duty. This meteoric rise of PUBG is the reason why even Call of Duty launched its mobile version, and in just 1.5 years, the mobile version got 500 million downloads and generated a revenue of $1 billion. This is how both Call of Duty and PUBG are now making money through the freemium model, which increased both the scope of revenue, and in the context of esports, it drastically increased the number of potential fans who can then go on to become viewers and players in the esports tournament. This is how the business models are now transitioning from a razor blade or a console CD model to a freemium model. Now the question is, does this mean that all the games will now be free and accessible through mobile? Well, not yet. And this is where the tech giants come in. The challenge over here is that mobile gaming is still a very big obstacle because it limits the scope of the games by a large extent. So developers still have very limited things to offer in their games because of the processing capability of your devices. And at the same time, like we saw, high-end PCs or consoles are entry barriers to the customers. So the million-dollar question over here is that how can we increase the accessibility of these heavy games like Fortnite without getting people to buy expensive devices like consoles or PCs? And the answer to this lies in nothing but cloud gaming, which is now causing a business war between Amazon, Google, Facebook and Apple. How and why? We'll talk about that in the upcoming episodes. For now, let's move on to the most important part of the episode, and that is, as students of business, what are the factors that you need to keep an eye on, and what are the study materials that you're supposed to refer to in order to understand the esports industry better? Number 1, study the evolution of games all the way from Pac-Man to PUBG and try to understand what are the major drivers of growth that are common in all of them. For this, I am attaching an article summarizing the entire timeline for you so that you can actually have something to refer to in order to understand the timeline of gaming. Number 2, study the different business models by which esports stakeholders can actually make money. I'll be covering this in the upcoming episodes, but for now, please study the rivals in the industry in order to understand how they make money. For example, in cloud, you've got Facebook and Apple. For streaming, we've got YouTube and Twitch. For games, we've got Dota and Fortnite. And last and most importantly, I am attaching an EY report that will give you the details of esports in India. Read the document very carefully because esports is just getting started in India. And when you study the most important drivers of growth of this industry, you'll be able to predict the trajectory of this industry in India better. That's all from my side for today, guys. I hope that was not an information overload to you. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button in order to make YouTube Baba happy. And for more such insightful business and political case studies, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.